Hey everyone! Great to be back with you all again. It was really nice getting to start up the Game Boy Advance Klonoa games, as I'd had copies of these two games for years, but only got to playing them very recently. The first game, Empire of Dreams, ended up being quite fun despite the shift to a more puzzle-focused game and the lack of the 2.5D elements. This sequel here, Dream Champ Tournament, would follow the same structure, but with some clear differences to make it stand out. Is it worth checking out? Grab those snowboards, and we'll see just how well Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament for the Game Boy Advance holds up today! A little closer. There it is. Yeah. Developed by Now Production, published by Namco Bandai, and released for the Game Boy Advance in August 2002 for Japan, and a whopping 3 years later for North America in February of 2005, Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament is a direct sequel to Klonoa Empire of Dreams, continuing its 2D platforming style with some action and heavier focus on puzzle elements. Unlike the previous games, Dream Champ Tournament would not include any input from Hideo Yoshizawa. Unlike the first spin-off, Empire of Dreams, this entry seems to also take place after Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil. After a flashback sequence, with Klonoa defeating the King of Despair from Empire of Dreams, we flip to present day, where Klonoa receives a mysterious letter telling him to participate in the Dream Champ Tournament, a competition among all of the greatest adventurers to determine the title of greatest hero, and even win some prize money. After reading the letter, Klonoa immediately gets transported into a giant arena, with all kinds of other adventurers, big and small. Even more surprising, he finds and reunites with Lolo and Popka from Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil. And the recurring character appearances don't end there. On top of seeing Chipple from Empire of Dreams once more, Klonoa also encounters Joka from the original game Door to Phantom Isle. Seeing all of these characters together in such a setting was certainly unexpected. We find out that this entire event is organized by a character named Garland, who splits all the characters up into tournament brackets. Their goal is to complete each set of 8 stages per world, with a total of 5 worlds, while trying to gain the highest ranks, ending things with a boss stage at the end of each. Also among the ranks is a new character, who goes by the name of Gantz. We don't know much about him, outside of the fact that he carries large guns around, identifies as a bounty hunter, and is determined to win at all costs. The game's general controls are the same as they were before, with Klonoa able to move left and right, grab enemies, and either throw or double jump with them, as well as the ability to glide when holding down the jump button. One small but impactful change to the controls is the ability to hold down a button and move the camera in any direction you want, in order to see what's in your proximity, so you no longer have to worry about getting hit by something off screen. These simple controls are used to navigate all kinds of various puzzles and enemies. Just like before, Dream Champ Tournament has a heavier focus on puzzle solving than action. While the general structure of the game is very similar to Empire of Dreams, there are also some clear differences that make it stand out from its predecessor. The first is the game's ranking system. Getting 100% completion in Empire of Dreams was the result of finding all of the 30 crystals and 3 stars scattered throughout each stage. Here, you'll also have a special kind of star called a Sunstone to obtain. At the end of each stage, you receive a ranking from C to S, depending on how many of the items you found, how many times you hit retry on a stage, and how much damage you took. Item completion, on top of the ranking system, determines your ability to 100% the game, and as you can imagine, makes things far more difficult to work through. But the changes don't stop there. Just like Empire of Dreams, each world features one stage where Klonoa rides aboard through water and other terrain, and a stage where the background automatically moves and Klonoa has to keep up with it in order to reach the end in time. While the latter is generally the same as it was in the previous game, the board riding is not. Perhaps this was a response to the lack of 2.5D visuals like in the original games, but Klonoa now rides his board straight forward, with the ability to move left and right, grab enemies, and jump and glide. This is vastly different from the left-to-right style that Empire of Dreams followed, and manages to emulate the look of Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil a little better than its predecessor, seeing as this is the other view you'd see Klonoa use the board in with that game. There's also a few stages where you pilot a submarine-type vehicle, but the gameplay is still the same, minus the usual underwater physics. There's also a few more additions that were put in to make the game feel more like Klonoa 2, including one of my personal favorite enemies, the lightning bug, which zaps you up into the sky and breaks any objects along the way. One last major change is the boss fight structure, which is now completely different from that of the previous games. Each fight now works like a race, where you're given sections of a stage to get through, while having to solve some quick puzzles at the same time to stay ahead, and doors to unlock, all monitored through a bar at the top with both characters' positions. It's also possible to slow your opponent down by throwing enemies into cannons, which will paralyze them for a short amount of time. After reaching the end of the stage first, Klonoa wins and advances to the next world. Although there are a few small differences in each boss stage, like this one where the opponent actually chases you straight through the stage, all of these boss stages, final battle excluded, have generally the same structure and are a huge change of pace from the style in the other games. And I guess that brings me to my next topic on this game, the difficulty. I have no hesitation in saying that I found this to be by far the most difficult Klonoa game to beat, and the most difficult 100%, thanks to the snowboard stages and the S-rank requirements. It's like if you took the difficulty of the EX stages from Empire of Dreams, and decided to make the latter stages of this game reach those same heights. The final stages and the EX stages will really put your skills and patience to the test this time. That's not to dissuade anyone or tell you that you won't succeed regardless of your skill level, but the difficulty spike in the final world is absolutely brutal, and I have a feeling that many people will not be prepared for it. Some of the puzzle solving requires you to do some straight up outlandish things that appear to be borderline game breaking on the surface. By the time I was finished, I ended up feeling more exhausted than accomplished. So how did I end up feeling about the whole thing? I suppose you could say happy with a few caveats. While I absolutely loved the new gameplay additions brought over from games like Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, I found some of the puzzles in the later stages to be far more difficult and frustrating than fun. The story was filled with a lot of the usual tropes seen in both games and anime, with a betrayal from one character, and a race against your rival, leading to that same rival helping you win the final battle, etc. I was fine with all of this, but I could see why others may roll their eyes at these types of developments once again, especially if you were hoping for something more personal and unique, like the PlayStation titles. I also found the timing in the snowboard stages to be a little too precise for gem collecting, making a 100% completion rate seem more daunting than ever here. I had to restart a lot of these stages more times than I can count to get all the items and S-rank bonuses. And while the new boss structure was certainly an interesting change of pace, I don't think I really preferred it to the straightforward fights seen in the previous entries, and kind of wish the race dynamic could have just been a one-off, for maybe 1 to 2 stages at most. The final battle was actually a staunch reminder of this for me, as it took me back to the fight style that I remembered and enjoyed. Now, let's not confuse these criticisms of mine with outright dislike. Despite these small issues that I had here and there, I still found the game to be a blast. Solving puzzles in the first 4 worlds, at least, felt very rewarding, and there was nothing like the joy that came with reaching 100% completion and an S ranking by the end of a stage. Oh, and Gantz's tendency to carry around a bunch of guns at all times because he's a big, bad bounty hunter? Love it. It's super corny and over the top, and it had me smiling the whole time. More of this level of cheese, please. On one hand, the game ended up making some design choices that I hadn't really asked for and threw me off a bit. On the other hand, I really came to appreciate that about it as time went on. Instead of just being a carbon copy of the title that came before it, Dream Champ Tournament ended up standing out in a lot of its own unique ways, and for that, I tip my hat off to it. I'd much rather see developers continue to take risks than not, and this title still ended up doing far more good than bad. If you're not turned off by the difficulty of the later stages, then you're bound to have more fun with this title like I did. If, once again, you're simply looking for more Klonoa fun and wackiness, look no further. The change-ups and reuniting with classic characters is sure to bring out more of that joy you felt when playing the other games. And I won't soon forget it. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have you played this game before yourself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're feeling generous, please consider supporting my Patreon, where awesome people like Jedi Dude, Erica, Brandon, and Cielo all help to keep this channel going. Until next time, my friends.